morning, Mr. Pretorius. Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Chair.
Yes.
As you will see, Chair, the witness planned for today, Ms. Barbara Hogan, is present. She's represented by Peter Harris and Letobeli Maketa of Harris, Newport, Molabatsi. The legal team at a meeting yesterday determined, however, that it would be appropriate today to make an application before you for postponement of the evidence of the current witness, as well as a witness due to be called on Friday, Minister Gordon. That application will be brought by Advocate Thandi Norman.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A copy of the application and the notice was made available to the chairperson's register this morning.
Yes, I've got it.
Has that been placed before? Yes, thank you. Mr. Chairman, this is an application for a postponement of today's hearing. The chairperson would observe that Ms. Barbara Hogan is present today as she was due to testify today. But the reasons why the legal team felt that it would be prudent to appear before you today and ask for an adjournment are the following. The final statement of Ms. Hogan was received on Monday this week. And in terms of Rule 3 of the rules of this commission, that statement has to be given to persons that are implicated therein, and those persons must be given 2 weeks within which to either put up a version or decide to ignore the statement and take whatever steps they deem appropriate. And because then the statement was only received on Monday, it was not possible to adhere to those rules. And then the statement of Minister Pravin Gordhan, the only statement that the Commission is in possession of is a draft statement from him, which cannot be acted upon in terms of the rules of this Commission. We are expecting that maybe his final statement would come to hand tomorrow. And even if it does come to hand tomorrow, it means that it will not be possible for the implicated persons, even if they are implicated certainly or may be implicated, or that it would not be possible for them then to make the choices that they are entitled to make in terms of the rules before Friday. It is for those reasons that we felt that not only must we approach the chairperson this morning and seek a postponement on those bases, but also to ensure that the public at large respects the way the Commission operates, and that we as a legal team also adhere to the rules in order not to undermine the integrity of the Commission. There was service of the application on Mr. Harris and on the State Attorney, Ms. Mbata, who represents Mr. Pravin Gordhan, by email. They were served by email, alerted to the fact that there will be an application for a postponement today. Mr. Chairman, the regulations themselves, Regulation 6 in particular, makes provision and gives people the rights for them to make a choice when they want to present evidence before the Commission, that they may be represented by their own legal representatives. And when they do that, then they prepare their own statements with their lawyers. And once they've done that, those statements then are brought to the Commission, and after they've given those statements to the Commission, the members of the legal team and the investigators must interrogate those facts that are placed in those statements to make sure that whatever information is placed before the Commission is reliable, and also if there is any corroborative evidence that could be obtained in the meantime, that be obtained before a witness testifies. Now, given the timelines that I've placed before the chairperson of Monday and Friday, it is totally impossible then to adhere to those rules. And we believe that not only will those that are implicated be prejudiced if the witnesses continue to testify in their absence, but also that the Commission's work will be done piecemeal, because if that evidence is received today and on Friday, the implicated notices will only go after these witnesses have testified, and the implicated persons will take 2 weeks and they will exercise their right whether they want to cross-examine or not. And then it means that the very witnesses must come back again for them to be cross-examined. And we believe that the approach that we've taken will obviate the need for the witnesses having to come twice before the Commission, unless, of course, there were other areas that they had not covered.
Of course, witnesses coming to the Commission twice might not be completely avoided in if one has regard to the various topics that have to be covered.
Indeed.
So that factor might not carry a lot of weight, because by the very nature of how the Commission is going to deal with these matters, different parts of the terms of reference, it may happen that some witnesses have to come to the Commission twice.
Indeed, Mr. Chairperson.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. But what we are seeking to avoid is a situation where, not maybe by design, that a witness finds herself or himself having to come twice simply because the implicated person didn't have an opportunity at the time to either put questions at the same time as they were testifying. And on the same topic, and not on new topics that they may be called upon to come and deal with.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Chairperson, it would then be, our submissions to you, we have to base them on what the applicable legal principles are when one applies for a postponement. And we've made some submissions, but indirectly, I would simply just like to refer the Chairperson to the popular decision of the Shulubana, where the Constitutional Court confirmed the principles that were enunciated in the judgment of Mohammed AJA, as he then was, in the matter of Maybeck Transport versus Water, where he had verbalized the principles and listed them, that the granting of a postponement lies squarely within the discretion of the Chairperson, although these matters were dealt with in a court setting, but they equally apply in these proceedings. But what is important also is that the application could not have been made earlier than today because of the circumstances that we've articulated in Mr. Mabunda's affidavit, that because the main affidavit was only received on Monday, and now we're still awaiting the affidavit of Minister Godan, it could not have been brought earlier than today.
Yes. When was Ms. Barbara Hogan's statement supposed to have reached the Commission's legal team in terms of whatever arrangements had been made between the Commission's legal team and her or her legal team?
The very first statement was received, a draft statement, if I may put it that way, and as we deal with it, although the date is not finished in the affidavit, but there was a statement that was received from her, but that statement dealt with a very narrow issue. And then consultations thereafter were held, and it was decided that a broader statement ought to have been prepared. But the first one was received over a month ago. But then it was anticipated that a final one would also come quickly and would be received in time by the Commission, but it was only unfortunately received on Monday. Yes.
Okay. And in terms of, and the statement from Minister Godan,
that one is over.
When was it supposed to have reached the Commission's legal team, or is tomorrow the day that was arranged as the day by when it was supposed to reach the legal team?
Yes. I'm advised by my learned friend, Mr. Pretorius, that there were various dates that were agreed on, and then the draft statement was presented, and there were various dates within which the final statement had to be submitted, but due to some of the minister's commitments, then those deadlines could not be met. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The application, there is no indication on the papers, and at least none of the parties have cried and indicated that this application is not being made bona fide, and it is made not with the purpose of frustrating the work of the Commission, but...
Well, they didn't get much notice in terms of this application.
Yes.
Other than that, because Ms. Barbara Hogan, I assume, has been in touch with the legal team might know where she or her legal team stands with regard to it, and same would apply to Minister Gordon. He is not here now because he's not supposed to be here now, but he or his legal team or office might have indicated something to you. From what you are telling me, it does appear that the real reason which makes it necessary to have a postponement is that Ms. Hogan's statement was received late.
Yes.
That is a day or two ago,
Yes.
which did not give the legal team of the Commission enough time to give proper notice to any people implicated in that statement, or it might have given them notice, but it didn't. The notice would not give them the amount of time contemplated in the rules to enable them to put up their version with regard to the allegations implicating them.
Yes, that's correct.
And the point has to be that there is a purpose for that rule.
Yes.
And the purpose is that by the time that a witness gives evidence before the Commission, anyone who is implicated in that witness statement should be aware that he or she is implicated in the statement of that witness and should have had an opportunity to put or to furnish the Commission's legal team with his or her version in regard to the allegations against them, and the Commission's legal team should have had an opportunity to interrogate his or her version against the version of the witness and to investigate, if need be, any allegations or any aspects of his or her version, so that when the witness gives evidence, the Commission's legal team is able to ask questions that are informed by both versions.
Yes.
That basically is...
That is correct, and that's what is contained in the affidavit, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm advised that Mr. Harris does not wish to oppose the application, and as the chairperson has indicated, the state attorney might not have had enough opportunity to deal or to submit any objection, but if there is any, maybe that would have to be dealt with in due course.
Yeah.
But there was service on the state attorney by way of email. Yes.
Yeah.
And I am advised by Mr. Pretorius that he did speak to Minister Gordon's counsel, who has no objections to the postponement that's being sought.
Yes.
Then, Mr. Chairman, you would observe that on the notice of application itself, there are no dates that have been included therein, but after the papers were prepared, then we sat down with the Secretariat of the Commission to ascertain what other dates are available, because the venue that the Commission sits in is not available the week of the 23rd to the 26th of October, and it is also not available again the week of the 6th to the 9th of October. Now, given then the timelines and compliance issues with the notices and the versions that have to be put up, we are suggesting to the chairperson that the ideal date for receiving the evidence of Ms. Barbara Hogan, which date has been canvassed with her lawyers, it's suitable to her, would be the 12th of November. And the date that we would suggest for Minister Gordon would be the 15th of November, given the fact that that Wednesday they have cabinet meetings, and then would accommodate him on the 15th of November.
The date of the 15th on which you propose should be the date for the hearing of evidence of Minister Gordon.
Yes.
Is the date that he or his lawyers have been consulted on? Do we know whether...
No, unfortunately, they have not been consulted on. What we're planning to do is after the hearings, in the event that they say the date is not suitable, we will make an application to move that date to another date. But we believe that because he is also, in fact, we have been, I think all the witnesses, they want to get this thing over and done with. Maybe he might make himself available that week. But unfortunately, we didn't want a situation we leave it open-ended, because once we do that, in any event, every witness must make himself or herself available when called upon to come to the commission, unless, of course, there are reasons that are beyond his or her control. So the date of the 15th is the date that you are suggesting tentatively in respect of Minister Gordhan.
What is the day of the week on the 12th of November?
The 12th is a Monday, and then
Yes.
the 15th, Mr. Chairman, is a Thursday.
Yes. Okay, you're leaving room that in case there are implicated persons
Who wish to
who
cross-examine
apply for leave to cross-examine Ms. Hogan,
Ms. Hogan, that's correct.
then Tuesday the 13th could
It
still
could
be
still
used
be
for
used.
that.
And in fact, even Wednesday, if
Even
it
Wednesday,
overlaps.
if
That is correct.
if-
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We therefore apply for the orders sought in the notice of application with the amendment by inserting the suggested dates in the respective paragraphs, as asked for in paragraphs A to C of the notice of application.
Yes.
Thank you. Those are our submissions. Mr. Chairperson, that was Mr. Mancha who was whispering, indicating that he would like to say something about this application because he's one of the implicated, he represents one of the implicated persons. Could he be allowed then to address the Commission?
Thank you, Chairperson.
Yes, Mr. Marshall.
We have been invited, as per the notice in terms of the rules of the Commission, that the former President is implicated in the evidence which the witness before you is going to give. That notice was received by the former President through his attorneys on the 24th of August, with a statement signed allegedly by the witness before you on the 30th of July. We were then informed that the date upon which the witness before you is going to give evidence was the 12th of September. The 12th of September came, we never got any further written notification as to when the witness before you is going to give evidence. The reasons which are presented to you for seeking a postponement of the evidence of this witness, it's in short, she has provided a statement Monday this week, and therefore in terms of the rules of your commission, the implicated parties like ourselves, we won't have enough time to elect whatever we have to elect in terms of the rules. The notice in terms of Rule 3.3 has been already given to us with certain grounds set out in the notice, allegedly the instances of evidence which implicates us. And of course, we have reacted to that notice. We have requested particulars in terms of letters asking certain questions, of which those questions were never answered. And when the former president made an election, as it was conveyed to you on the statements given to him allegedly implicating him, it included the statement of this witness. So the submission made before you, there's no indication on the legal standing of the notice already given in terms of the statement dated 30 July. But coming to the reasons for postponement, it's in short, there's a statement received on Monday. We have been informed on the 8th of October that the witness before you, she's going to give evidence today, the 10th. I think you can make the 8th, according to my counting, it takes me to Monday. That this witness will give statement today, will give evidence today, 10 o'clock. In fact, the letter of the 8th October did not even have time. So, of course, we acknowledged the letter, and then we said, okay, what time she's going to give evidence? And we were then informed she was going to give evidence at 10 o'clock. We received the letter on the 9th of September. We received the letter on the 8th of October with the invite for today. And our letter, which was a follow-up letter, was on the 9th of October, which is Tuesday, I think, wherein we thought the time for the evidence. And we were told that the evidence will be given 10 o'clock. So that communication that we have and the reasons which are being presented to you, in my understanding, there is contradiction. That the commission, as early as the 8th and the 9th, they were still inviting us to come for this evidence without informing us that, in fact, there is a new statement that this witness has. And this statement is dated Monday, and there is the copy of the statement. So I'm saying this, Chairperson, because the underlining word by my learned friend has been the integrity of the commission. And what I'm submitting to you has everything to do with the integrity of the commission. So, what are the real reasons? If it was that the statement was submitted on Monday, what really stopped the commission to circulate the statement? As far as we know, maybe you can enlighten us. It appears we're the only implicated, allegedly implicated by this witness. I don't see any difficulties on Monday, upon the receipt of that statement, that we should have been finished with that statement. and that we should have been properly informed in terms of the rules of the Commission. So, in short, I find it very difficult to understand what are the real reasons upon which the postponement is being thought, because as late as the 9th of October, which is yesterday, we were told that the evidence will be given at 10 o'clock. There was no any indication of anything to the contrary. That's all I'm making, Chairperson, for the purposes of the integrity of the Commission. Thank you.
No, before you sit down, Mr. Mancha, from what you say, I don't expect you not to understand the reasons for a postponement, but I do expect you not to understand why you were not finished with this witness' latest statement on or after Monday, which is one of the points you make. You say on the 9th you were still being invited here, but you were not given the new statement. The reasons for the postponement, as I understand them, is the rules require a certain level of fairness to implicated persons. The statements, if they are received too close to the date when the witness is going to give evidence, makes it difficult to afford implicated persons enough time to look at the statement and make whatever decisions they wish to make. And it's important that the Commission should not only have regard to the rights of implicated persons, but it should be seen to have regard to those rights as well. So, but the point which seems to me is one that the legal team of the Commission should really deal with is if they were in touch with the former president's legal team after receiving this witness statement, why did they not furnish it to your firm? Is my understanding more or less okay? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, just press the mic so that we can, yeah.
Chairperson, I'm with you, but fairness will also require that there are no statements one after the other being given to so-called implicated parties. So when you receive a statement, that is the case you are meeting. So the number of statements, of course, it also raises another question. It raises a question because the statement that we are given, we are told that on the basis of that statement, we are implicated. Then there's another statement coming. So if the Commission, in terms of its preparation, on the 30th of July, had a statement of this witness. And from the 30th of July, there was a period of 23 days that the Commission had, well, this is my assumption, the Commission had the statement of this witness because we were finished with that statement on the 24th. So which obviously one would assume that for the Commission to actually draft a notice and circulate and elect who in terms of that statement, according to them, is implicated. So they familiarize themselves with the content of the statement. So when you are being told, then there's another statement, does it mean the statement that we received is incorrect? Does it mean the notices that we have received in terms of Rule Point 3 is incorrect? So we are not being told it's a supplementary statement. So it appears it's the replacement of the statement that we have received already. So I'm saying this, Chairperson, for the word you used, fairness. And this is in terms of fairness. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Thank you. Ms. Norman?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Chairman, may I just put certain things in their proper context? Mr. Mancha's complaint is that the initial statement was delivered, was served, proper notice was served in respect of that statement. But what he has not told the Commission is what version did they put in response to that first statement that was given. Because the version is critical, as is the notice. Because in order for the Commission to be able to look and investigate further, it must have a version. And he has not indicated, even today, he doesn't tell the chairperson as to when is he going to put up a version to the initial statement that he received. We haven't received that. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is a letter was written to him on the 8th. He wants to create some doubt whether this statement was received before that. Mr. Chairperson, this statement of Ms. Hogan is signed the 8th of October, 2018. And when that statement was received, there is a letter that was written to him, dated the 8th from Mr. Mabunda of the Commission. It says, notice in terms of Rule 3.3 by Ms. Barbara Hogan, we refer to the above matter. Kindly advise that Ms. Barbara Hogan will be appearing before the Commission on Wednesday, 10 October 2018. We confirm that your client was through you served a notice in terms of Rule 3.3 dated 22 August 2018 in which you was implicated by Ms. Hogan. Please expect to receive a formal notice in terms of Rule 3.3 based on this statement on Tuesday, the 9th of October 2018. Should you have any queries regarding the above, please do not hesitate to contact us. Now, the statement that we are talking about is a statement that expanded on the initial statement, and it is this big. This is all the work that Ms. Barbara Hogan and his legal team submitted to the Commission on Monday. It's this lever arch file. And it is for that reason that then the legal team decided that in the light of all of this, one cannot say we will rely on the old notice and on the old statements. Parties that are implicated, not just the former president, but there's various persons whose names appear on this statement. And it was felt that because of that, proper notices would have to be issued to all the parties, and then those parties would be given an opportunity to deal with those statements. So there is nothing unfair about that process, save to say that it is actually what is not fair is for Mr. Mancha not to indicate to the chairperson as to what is it that they are doing about the initial statement. And when, if he gets this statement, when are we going to get a version? Because he has not indicated what prejudice is suffering. And we cannot have a situation where there has been compliance with the initial notices by the Commission, but there has been no version forthcoming from his client. So
but of course, as of today,
yes,
he asked the question, what is the status of that first statement? Because he implies he has not been told what the status of that first statement is, and he says he has not been told whether the statement that was received on the 8th by the Commission's legal team replaces or supplements the earlier statement.
Yes, well, the initial statement is still valid. It's evidence before the Commission. It stands. This statement, as I indicated in my submissions when I made the application, this goes further than the initial statement. It deals with other aspects which are not covered in that statement. So he must not, he's not going to discard that statement. These statements are all before the Commission, but
it's all very well to say what the position is now. His complaint is prior to today, he had not been told. what the status of the previous statement is.
Without really defending the Mr. Mabunda of the Commission, but in all fairness to him, he did indicate in the letter that he wrote to him that here is another statement now, and please, if you have any queries, please let me know.
But that doesn't say, does it take the place of the first one,
Yes.
or does it supplement it?
Yes, maybe that's an omission on the part of the Commission, but my understanding is that that statement was dealing with a very narrow, limited issue.
I mean, there may be very good reasons why
Yes.
there should have been a second statement.
Yes.
But we were just dealing with his complaint to
That
say
is correct.
we are told on the 8th or 9th that this witness will give evidence on the 10th, and yet, one, we are not finished with the second statement. Two, we are not told whether the second statement replaces the first statement or whether it supplements it.
Yes.
That's part of his complaint.
And that complaint is a valid complaint, Chair, but it will be addressed by the notice, because the notice that is going to be issued in respect of this statement is going to identify the areas where his client is actually implicated in this statement, and those portions of the statement that are relevant to his client will be furnished to him. But it is for that reason that it is necessary to actually issue proper notices and deal with the matters in terms of the rules properly. His complaint is valid because really it wouldn't have taken too much of the Commission's time to say to him, Mr. Mancha, this statement that we are putting you, which is over 300 pages with annexures there to either replaces the one or it supplements the other one. So that's a fair comment, and we take that complaint and we receive it. It's a valid complaint. But to suggest either indirectly or otherwise that was intended to frustrate the process, that certainly was not the case, yes, or to cause prejudice.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I don't think he went that far.
Yes.
I don't think he went that far. My understanding is that he was just registering his concerns.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
About how things have happened.
Yes, thank you.
But he also made another, he also registered another complaint. He says that the Commission's legal team furnished him with the first statement of this witness and indicated that this witness was going to give evidence on a certain date. But he says he was not informed of anything, and that date came and went. In effect, he's saying the Commission's legal team didn't bother to say to him, this witness is no longer going to give evidence on the date that we have given because of ABCD.
Yes, this is the date of the 12th of September that he mentioned. Unfortunately, Chair, I do not have details relating as to exactly what happened on that date and why it was decided that evidence not be received on that date.
Well, the reason would have been, from I think what I've read,
yes,
is that the witness
we needed to expand.
Indicated that there are other matters
yes.
which were not covered in her initial statement,
that is correct.
Which are relevant to the investigation of the Commission that yes. she wanted to cover, and therefore she wanted to give the Commission as much information as possible on yes. a variety of issues falling under its terms of reference.
That is correct. Yes, Chair, that was the reason, but there is definitely his complaint would be valid to the extent that he was not advised that the witness is no longer going to come and testify on the 12th for these reasons. He was entitled to that explanation, and if he didn't receive it, that would have been an omission on the part of the Commission. And going forward, that will certainly be rectified. Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And maybe just to finalize, I didn't get a sense from Mr. Mancha that he was opposed to the granting of the application that for postponing that.
He didn't say he was opposed. He he was registering his
His
concerns.
concerns, yes.
As I understand it, he was registering his concerns, and obviously it would not be in his interest that the witness gives evidence on the basis of the new statement in circumstances where he and
He has
his
not
client
received
haven't seen that statement and so on.
Yes.
But he was registering, as I understand, his concerns.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This commission was going to hear today the evidence of Ms. Barbara Hogan, and on Friday it was going to hear the evidence of Mr. Pravin Gordhan. An application has now been brought by the commission's legal team for the postponement of the hearing of Ms. Hogan's evidence today, as well as the postponement of the hearing of the evidence of Minister Pravin Gordhan on Friday. The reasons given for this application is that, one, the statement on the basis of which Ms. Hogan is going to give evidence was only received by the Commission's legal team on Monday, the 8th of October, and that Minister Pravin Gordhan's statement has not yet been received by the Commission's legal team, and it is expected to be received by the Commission's legal team only tomorrow. And in both cases, it will not be possible for the Commission's legal team to afford implicated persons the time contemplated in Rule 3 of the rules of this Commission, which requires that if they are, that is the Commission's legal team, in possession of a statement from a witness which implicates any person, they should furnish the implicated person or persons with that statement or portions or relevant portions of that statement to enable that person to finish his or her response or version to the allegations implicating him or her, and also in due course, and also to decide whether he or she would like to apply to the Commission for leave to cross-examine the witness. Part of the reason for that rule is that, one, implicated persons must know in advance what the allegations are against them if they are implicated by any witness, so that if at all possible they can attend the hearing when that witness gives evidence. But also, part of the purpose of that rule is that the implicated persons should furnish the Commission's legal team with their version of the events in which they are implicated in the witness statement. That enables the Commission's legal team to conduct further investigation and to explore various issues and look at both the witness statement as well as the version of the implicated persons, with the result that when the witness gives evidence, the Commission's legal team is able to ask questions that cover both what the witness says as well as the version put up by the implicated persons. This rule seeks to ensure that there is fairness afforded to implicated persons in the process of this commission. Indeed, if the statements of Ms. Barbara Hogan was received on the 8th of October and it is signed on that date, then definitely there is not enough time for implicated persons to read that statement and respond to it before she can give evidence. So it is necessary that more time be available to them so that they can deal with the allegations prior to her giving evidence. With regard to Minister Pravin Gordhan's statement, if it has not been received as of today, and will only be received tomorrow, it is quite clear that there simply will not be enough time for implicated persons to be given notice and for them to give their version and to consider the allegations that will be made in that statement against them before Mr. Gordon gives evidence before this commission. This commission is committed to ensuring that implicated persons are dealt with fairly and that they have a fair opportunity to put their versions before the commission and to explain their conduct where they accept that they may have acted in a manner that is not acceptable. This is quite important because it will ensure that the final findings and recommendations made by this commission, after all the evidence has been laid, are findings that deserve credibility, because as far as possible, all persons will have been given an opportunity to put their cases before the commission, to put their versions, and to be heard. The rules make provision for this commission to condone non-compliance with the rules, and in an appropriate case, the commission will condone non-compliance. However, the commission's legal team must do everything they can to make sure that, as far as possible, implicated persons receive notices timeously and have an opportunity to put up their version prior to witnesses giving evidence. In the circumstances, it seems to me that indeed it is appropriate that there should be an adjournment. Mr. Manja, who appeared on behalf of former President Jacob Zuma, registered certain concerns in regard to the first statement of Ms. Barbara Hogan that had been furnished to his client, as well as the interactions between him and the Commission's legal team over the past 2 days. These have been dealt with already in the exchange that I have had with him and with the Commission's legal team. And I just wish to emphasize again that the Commission and its legal team must make sure that all implicated persons are treated fairly and are afforded a fair opportunity to put their case before the Commission. I have emphasized this previously and continue to emphasize it because there should be nobody who has any reservations to placing their version and their evidence before this Commission. When I speak about fairness that I emphasize must be afforded implicated persons, I wish to emphasize that that fairness mustn't be confused with the fairness that is subject to the rules and practices of courts of law. It must be fairness as understood in the context of a commission of inquiry. And in this regard, many aspects of the rules of fairness applicable in a court of law will apply to a commission such as this one, but there will be certain differences, and at all times, all concerned must bear this distinction in mind. It is important to also point out that this commission would like to try and finish its job within a reasonable time, and therefore all concerned should give cooperation to make sure that it is not unduly delayed in doing its job and in finalizing the investigation and the hearings that must happen. In this regard, I want to emphasize that implicated persons who get notices informing them that they are or may be implicated by certain witness statements are required to put up their version, and so that when the witnesses give evidence, the Commission is aware of their version and can approach the questioning of witnesses with a full understanding of different versions. And in this regard, I hope that all concerned will cooperate with the Commission in order to make sure that its functioning is as smooth as possible. In the circumstances, I am prepared to grant the postponement asked for, and will then adjourn these proceedings to the 12th of November 2018, when Ms. Barbara Hogan will appear before the Commission and give her evidence. It is unfortunate that we are not able to proceed today, but I'm sure that Ms. Barbara Hogan, sitting in the hearing, understands the reasons together with her team. The Commission is grateful for her having come forward to give evidence, and her evidence, like the evidence of all witnesses, will be evaluated at the end, and such findings as may be necessary will be made at that time. But at this stage already, the Commission is able to say that it appreciates her taking the decision to come forward and assist the Commission. With regard to Minister Pravin Gordhan, I am going to fix the date of the 15th of November, because I really do want to make sure that we are not delayed for too long before we finalize the evidence that relates to appointments and dismissals of ministers, which fall under a certain part of the Commission's terms of reference. And I hope that it will only be if there is really no other way that he can be here on the 15th of November that he would apply for that date to be changed. So I will fix that date. There is room for him to apply for that date to be changed, but I hope that it will only be if the exceptional circumstances. I hope that he will do everything he can to be available on that date. The hearing is therefore adjourned to the 12th of November, and it will continue after that with regard to any other witnesses that may be available at that stage. But on the 15th of November, it will hear the evidence of Minister Pravin Gordhan, unless prior to that he applies for that date to be changed. That is the decision on the adjournment.
Thank you. As the chairperson, please.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
We will then adjourn, and obviously Ms. Barbara Hogan will come back on the 12th of November. We adjourn.